As 2020 has been an unprecedented year in the US in a number of ways, its effects have revealed anxieties to crippling phobias in some cases. While fear is an emotional response, phobias produce angst strong enough to affect one's quality of life. The team at yourlocalsecurity.com analyzed search terms and came out with its annual report on the most searched phobia for each individual state. How does your state measure up, and do you suffer from the same fears? Let's find out. We'll begin with a few of the most common phobias among children and adults. Colorado, New Jersey, Oregon, and South Carolina all have elevated searches regarding the fear of the dark in 2020. Nyctophobia is characterized by a severe fear of the dark, thought to be triggered by the brain's disfigured perception of dangers concealed by darkness. Make sure to keep that nightlight on. Wyoming, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Maine, Maryland, Kentucky, and Connecticut all share a fear of flying. Up from only 3 states last year, these 7 states have cited aviophobia as their most searched fear. While on the rise in 2020, the fear of flying is still a relatively common phobia. Coupled with claustrophobia, however, it can make even the idea of flying an airplane a truly frightening concept indeed. Ohio and Washington both share the fear of needles. Trypanophobia is a fear of injections and needles. Sufferers react severely before receiving vaccinations and at the thought of getting a tattoo. The greatest impact of this phobia may be that sufferers skip important medical or dental appointments to avoid further trauma. Similarly, Alabama, Tennessee, and Vermont are all afraid of blood. As many people feel uneasy about blood from time to time, hemophobia is an extreme fear of seeing blood or receiving medical testing where blood may be involved. Some patients may report anxiety or weakness for up to 2 days after a phobic response, while others may experience a sudden drop in heart rate and blood pressure, passing out on the spot. Virginia and Wisconsin have reported elevated fears of certain types of vermin. For Virginia, it's snakes, but for Wisconsin, it's spiders. New research suggests humans have evolved an innate tendency to sense snakes and spiders, to recognize a spider's spindly legs or a snake's slithering form, and have learned to fear them to survive in the wild. Hawaii was the only state this year with a fear of heights. Acrophobia sometimes develops in response to a personal traumatic experience involving heights, such as falling from a high place or watching someone else fall. Sufferers of this fear may make a safe situation in a high place much more dangerous when panic leads them to act unsafely, or if they become too agitated to get themselves down from a perilous height. A fear of many high school and college students, Nebraska fears public speaking or glossophobia. Approximately 25% of people have reported having speech anxiety in some form or another in their lives. The speaker often feels this fear when their focus shifts from being heard and understood by the audience to being evaluated and judged. Now let's move on to a few of the more unusual fears. Utah, North Carolina, Arizona, and Massachusetts are all searching about their fears of failure. Actichophobia is characterized by the inability to attempt any goal that is not guaranteed by success. While your comfort zone might feel safe and secure, the fear of failing can be paralyzing. Societal pressures to be successful are certainly on the rise, and this fear has significantly increased during the last 15 years, so we can expect more people to be afraid to fail in the future. Montana and New Hampshire have a fear of clowns. While many people feel uneasy around clowns, actually having coulrophobia is quite rare. This phobia is often caused by the uncanny and unnatural appearance of the clowns, as something that is both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. You question their motives, and therefore they are a danger to you. The state of California's biggest fear was that of social media. With cities like Los Angeles acting as a major center for social media influencers, it's understandable why this fear is so prevalent. This fear is often linked to scopophobia, the excessive fear of being stared at or scrutinized as the center of attention. Constant use of social media sites may increase stress, lower self-esteem, and has the potential to make mental health issues worsen. With these sites becoming more commonplace every year, cases of these fears will continue to rise. The most searched phobia for Illinois and New York is philophobia, the fear of intimacy. New York has an abnormally high percentage of single adults, which may have something to do with their elevated numbers. This fear affects a person's quality of life and pushes that person away from commitment, keeping them trapped in solitude. North Dakota and Rhode Island are each cited as having the strange fear of holes. Trypophobia is an aversion to the sight of irregular patterns or clusters of small holes or bumps. The phobia isn't even recognized by the psychological community and is not, for most, a true phobia in the diagnosable sense. The more researchers look into it, the more they find it's not so much a fear, and not only of holes, but a disgust reaction to things we might feel as possible contaminants. Now let's look at a few of the last phobias which have a particular weight in 2020. Minnesota, Missouri, and Indiana each have a fear of being alone. Compared to 2019, autophobia has increased threefold. Even being in a comforting place like home, being alone can result in severe anxiety for people with this condition. People with autophobia feel they need another person around in order to feel safe. As soon as they're by themselves, sufferers may feel intensely lonely, bored, or anxious. Texas and Georgia are experiencing larger numbers of people fearing the outdoors. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult or that help wouldn't be available if things go wrong. Many people assume it is simply a fear of open spaces, but it's actually a more complex condition. Sufferers may also be scared of traveling on public transport, visiting a shopping center, or just being away from home. Florida and Nevada have seen higher fears of getting viruses. Mysophobia is a pathological fear of contamination, dirt, and germs. With coronavirus cases still on the rise, we can see why many people have begun experiencing this fear. While it is normal and prudent to be concerned about issues such as cross-contamination of foods, exposure to bodily fluids, maintaining good hygiene, and preventing the spread of illnesses, these concerns become overblown and are thought to be related to an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Lastly, West Virginia, South Dakota, New Mexico, Mississippi, Delaware, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Alaska, Arkansas, and Idaho all share a fear of other people. This year, anthropophobia made up 22% of all phobia search volume, a quintuple increase since 2019, making it the most searched fear in the United States. While it's not always clear what causes this phobia, as it often depends on the individual, it can be assumed that COVID-19 played a role in these elevated numbers. It often resembles a social phobia, but is not precisely the same fear. Depending on the severity, sufferers may experience a phobic reaction even when in the company of only one other person. The increased anxiety to protect oneself and one's family can translate to a severe panic and a distrust in the intentions of other people. Here's to hoping that 2021 will bring things closer to normal and a lessening of our growing fears and anxieties. But who knows, maybe by the end of the year there will be a rise in even stranger phobias about balloons, the number 8, or maybe even the color yellow.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
For more videos about the paranormal and the unexplained, please like and subscribe to the Oddities Observed channel.